to create this character?
Well, I kind of began at the beginning in terms of research. I began with her childhood and read as much as I could and watched as much as I could. And as you'd imagine, there's a plethora of material out there. I think probably researched enough to head into full steam ahead a proper biopic about Thatcher, and then the nature of the Crown is that these prime ministers are not the centre of attention at all. In fact, they are seen through the prism of the Crown and through their relationships directly with the Queen primarily, and so it took me a second, I think, to adjust to the narrow paths through which she was being viewed, and then it became about how best to make the most of what I understood about the whole of her in those solitary paths, so that we got a full spectrum of her and her personality, and certainly the scripts do that anyway. But it's a fantastic cross section, but it's by no means about Margaret Thatcher.
Sure, but she's an extraordinary figure, really, because she's this working class woman who's been through kind of sheer force of will, like, ascended to the highest office in the land, and without wanting to get too much into the politics of it, she's probably not quite a working class champion when she gets there, and yet here she is, she's kind of meeting like the highest level of nobility, and it's a difficult thing for her. I wonder if I could ask you a little bit about that and what you made of it.
She grew up as a monarchist, and so I think she was incredibly enamored, on the one hand, of the institution, and at the same time, I think in order to do what she felt, was her work for the country. She very much wanted the institution to to stick to their job descriptions and just kind of allow her to get on with saving the country, which is, I think, what she thought she was doing. So yes, no, she wasn't a champion of the working class, and yet I do think she believed that she was, on the one hand, because of her roots, and I do feel that she was, trying very hard to pull everybody up by their bootstraps, so it was a complicated relationship, but I think they did pretty well in it for 11 years of that relationship, considering how different they were.
Well, I'd love to ask you, and I'd love to ask Kate about the process of finding Thatcher in the hair and makeup, putting on the clothes. Like, was it a long process to try and get to a place where you could look in the mirror and see the Prime Minister looking back at you?
No, I felt the minute I sat in front of all of Kate's paraphernalia, just kind of let her get on with turning me into that woman, and so I just sat back and let her do what she's brilliant at. But there was definitely a point where it was kind of like, oh, there she is. Why are you cringing, Kate?
Because there were quite a lot of points where there she wasn't. It definitely took a little while, but that's the way it goes, isn't it? You have to go through the process.
Well, tell me about that process. Tell me about the process of discovery, Kate.
So for us, we tend to do it in the same way, kind of across the board for everybody. So we throw everything we've got at someone, do all the tricks that we know. With Gillian, we tried numerous sets of teeth. made her look like Ken Dodd. And, you know, Thatcher has her own teeth journey. If you look at reference for the period in 11 years, she has about 7 different teeth looks. So we did, you know, we consider whether that's a story we need to tell. And then actually by the time we come to camera test, certainly by the second or third camera test, we felt like we were kind of there. But initially, I think where we were trying to do a kind of as fine a job as possible of replicating Thatcher's, even her facial features, Peter gave me some really useful notes. He said, you know, it feels to me like you're judging her. And remember when we first see her, she's full of promise and, you know, she's in her prime. And actually that was great because we started to strip away some of the makeup and kind of forgot about it and didn't let it get in the way too much. And we really worked on perfecting that hair texture and silhouette that she's known for. And we really felt like with most people, when we get the shape, then the acting does the rest and you don't need to kind of faff about too much with the details in between. So I think the process is largely about trying it all out and then letting loads of stuff go. And like Gillian says, there's often a kind of a moment where she's in the room and you go, okay, now we can relax and enjoy it a bit more, kind of.
Gillian, tell me you have those photographs of the Ken Dodd, Margaret Thatcher on your phone.
Gosh, did we? I'm not sure if we took many photographs of that. I mean, we went from Ken Dodd's to kind of very shallow prosthesis, almost like the things that you wear at night to not grind your teeth, to blue tack. We tried because she has a bit of an overbite, and we were trying to, you know, and so we were trying to get that right, and then
very sophisticated makeup techniques on the phone. Very expensive.
I think I do have some pictures of me with blue tack.
I feel like I've got reams of these kind of incriminating photos.
Excellent. Deadline exclusive there, right there. I love it.
Now, Joe, one thing to say just about it is that I think where they really kind of found that line, and it's something that Kate's particularly brilliant at, is just allowing the actor to come through a little bit too, so that there's still space for what Gillian was bringing as Thatcher, not to be disappeared, and sometimes that, and I think Kate's just got that to a fine art with each of the actors.
Like what's interesting about the
been old enough to have so many failed relationships. We're very good at that. For you, youngsters, just
we have the same pattern.
Josh and Emma, Gillian, I wonder if I can ask you as well. Like, what was kind of the hardest aspect? What were the scenes that were the toughest to shoot as Thatcher?
Probably the audience scenes, because they're so long, and because there were quite a few of them, and in the times that we shot them over 2 or 3 days. We did, you know, so I was in 6 episodes. In each episode, I think I had 2 audiences, and there were a couple of days where we did 4 audience scenes back to back. And then, you know, a few months later, we did another 4 audiences back to back, you know, and so that on the one hand, that was the only way to do it, because that, you know, it was a location thing. And on the other hand, you know, that's not just a lot of dialogue, but a lot of a different trajectory also for the character at different stages of, and I think we'd started with, we started shooting with 2, 4 and 5, and then in the new year we went to 1 and 10. So the audience scenes for 1 and 10 were in the same period of time. And anyway, so it's that old delightful thing that actors often have to contend with, which is shooting out a sequence, but also just trying to make them different enough and to feel like they embodied the weight of what had gone before. You know, both politically and personally, and I was actually really surprised after the series aired that people were enjoying those scenes, because they were so torturous. It was so hard. And when people were saying they were enjoying the audience, you know, I think most of the time I was like, you did? Like, really? But yeah, so probably that was...
Thank you to our wonderful panel for The Crown, and to hope you'll join us all again for another screening series event very soon. Goodbye.
Bye. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Thanks.